Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic show, our interview show. It's episode 476. I've got my great co-host with me, Adrian, and also we've got a great guest. We've got Dave Warfel of Escape Creative. They're the people behind Design Upgrade Pro and Quiz Customer, a couple of the leading add-on plugins for LearnDash. So Dave, would you like to quickly introduce yourself to the listeners and viewers?
Sure. So I'm Dave Warfel, and I run Escape Creative. And like Jonathan was just saying, we've got a couple of plugins for LearnDash. I started a web design company about 11 years ago. And after a year or two of building sites from scratch by hand with HTML, CSS, and that kind of thing, I found WordPress and have been kind of working on WordPress ever since. And just in the last couple of years, I discovered LearnDash because I was looking for a way to take all the things I had learned about web design and about WordPress and package it up and start to sell it to people in the form of online courses. And in doing that research to figure out what platform would work best, that's where I actually discovered LearnDash. And then I kind of morphed into, I wanted to customize the look and feel of LearnDash. And that was something that was in my wheelhouse and a specialty in terms of the CSS and the design and user interface. And I thought other people might want something similar as well. So I figured out how to turn it into a WordPress plugin. And then that's been way more successful than I ever could have thought it would be. And so that's kind of where I am now, is really focusing on LearnDash. I do some customization for some clients, and then I've got a couple of plugins that I have as well. And I'm also getting back into the training space now that the plugin's been out for a little while and it's doing well, and also planning on going back into teaching people how to use WordPress, as well as now how to use LearnDash and get all of that set up. So plan to be launching some online courses at some point this year as well.
Oh, fantastic, Dave. And I've got my great co-host, Adrian. I'd like to introduce yourself to the new listeners and viewers, Adrian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Adrian. I'm the CEO and founder of Groundhog, and we produce and sell marketing automation plugins for businesses that use WordPress.
That's great. And before we go into the main part of the discussion, folks, I'd like to mention one of our major sponsors, and that's Kinsta Hosting. And what is Kinsta? Kinsta is one of the leading, and I would say the premier specialized WordPress hosting provider on the market at the present moment. They use Google Cloud as their leading technology, but what you get additionally by going to Kinsta is a great UX design. I think one of the best. When I'm having to support clients and I go to other hosting providers interfaces, which I will not mention, I just think to myself, I just couldn't leave Kinsta for this. You know, when you get used to the best, it's hard to downgrade. Also, you get some of the best, and I mean some of the best support on the market at the present moment. I've had to use their support, chat, email, and you just talk to somebody that you know straight away really knows their business, and you don't have to be accelerated up the food chain. Your problem is dealt with almost straight away, immediately. That's really reassuring, especially if you've got a e-commerce or a lot of medium to large membership site. So if that sounds interesting, go over to Kinsta for yourself or for your clients and look at their packages. I suggest that you buy one, and also tell them that you heard about Kinsta on the WP-Tonic web podcast. So on to the main part of the discussion, Dave. So, you know, LearnDash had a major upgrade, 3.0. I think it was a massive success. They knocked the ball out of the court in some ways. But what was some of the things you really enjoyed about the upgrade, and some of the things you think that might need improving?
Sure. Probably my favorite part, and I think it's a lot of people's favorite part of the 3.0 update, was the focus mode. And so essentially what focus mode is, for those that might not know, it's a customized screen. LearnDash sort of takes over from your theme, and they kind of remove some of the header and the footer and the sidebar elements that you might have throughout your site. And they just really focus on the learning content. So for all of your lessons or topics or quizzes that you might have throughout different courses, they've cleaned everything up, put a nice navigation on the left-hand sidebar, and then made your content front and center. And I think that's one of the things that that was really missing, especially with the way LearnDash works and the way WordPress works is you've got so many different themes to choose from that people's courses could look vastly different depending on what theme they were using. And a lot of times that just introduced clutter and things that took away from the actual learning experience. So that was by far the favorite feature that I had that they released with the 3.0 update for sure.
That's great. And what do you think still are some of the weaknesses of the package?
Sure. Their certificate building platform, and I actually was listening to one of your previous podcasts with Justin. I know that's something that they want to improve. That's kind of on their list, and there's been a lot of people that have been asking about it. I'm sure it's a very tricky thing technically to do, so it'll take them a little while to figure that out. But that still requires some HTML and kind of getting into the code. And for a lot of beginners, there's a lot of small businesses that use LearnDash that are fairly new to WordPress and don't have a lot of technical skills, and it can be pretty tricky for them. And admittedly, sometimes it was even tricky for me at first to figure out how to create that first certificate and get all the spacing done well and really have something that looks very professional at the end. So I know that's something they're working on, and I think that it'll come as soon as they're able to figure it out and do it right. They're probably making sure that they can do it well before they launch it. So, but that's something that I think really needs a lot of improvement. There's one other piece too that I was a little disappointed that I didn't see any more work done when in 3.0 to the quiz part of LearnDash. It didn't seem like they did a whole lot to improve the quizzes. They really focused on the focus mode part, and they did a kind of a native login and registration to make it easier for folks to log in to their account or sign up for a new account to start taking some free courses. So those are great things, but I would have liked to see a little bit more development with the quizzes, maybe a couple of different types of new question types that could have been introduced, and maybe some different design options or a little bit more customization there with the quizzes. So that's something that I hope that they iterate on in the future, and we see a little bit more development there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think they are two areas, and especially the certificate. It really, compared to the other parts, which are quite slick, I'm looking for the fairest comment about it. It comes across a little bit Mickey Mouse, really, the actual certificate compared to the slickness of other parts. Over to you, Adrian.
So you've obviously hitched kind of your bandwagon to the LearnDash train, which is awesome. Now there's several LMS platforms to choose from. There's Tutor, there's Lifter, and I'm sure that I'm forgetting a whole bunch of other ones as well. I mean, we have at least 5 integrations for LMS plugins from our own platform. And I'm curious what the value proposition of LearnDash was that made you attracted to that platform versus other platforms, and potentially why other businesses listening to this may want to consider LearnDash over something else. Sure,
that's a great question. The first thing I thought of when evaluating different LMS platforms was whether I wanted to go with something hosted like a Kajabi or a Thinkific or something along those lines, or whether I wanted to stick with WordPress. Even though I've been working with WordPress for a long time, I obviously love it. I've made a living off of it for a long time. I didn't want that to make up my mind for me. I still wanted to do my homework and really think about things, because it could have turned out that maybe a hosted platform might have been better for me, even though I make a living off of WordPress and like it for other things. So I did look at that, and I just really love, I always come back to the flexibility, and I know how to use WordPress and I know how to customize it. And so the customization was a huge piece that not only led me to looking for a WordPress LMS, but also led me to LearnDash. I remember reaching out to their support team or their sales team actually, before I even purchased it. And I was curious if I could customize the layout and the look and the templates. And they have an entire templating system that if you're a developer and you know some PHP and HTML and you're comfortable with WordPress, that you can go in and really create a bunch of your own custom templates. So you're still letting LearnDash do all of the heavy lifting and all of the actual true LMS stuff and the progress tracking and all of those things you look for in an LMS. But then I knew I would have the ability to go in and write my own CSS, adjust the HTML a little bit, kind of create some of my own custom templates. And that's something that a lot of the hosted platforms don't offer. And so I really liked having that flexibility with LearnDash. And To be honest, one of the other things that led me to LearnDash, especially over Lifter, because at the time, Lifter LMS was the other really big player in the space. Tutor hadn't even, I don't think, come out yet. I think they're still relatively new. And this was a little over 2 years ago when I was doing my evaluations. And honestly, the pricing structure for LearnDash was another big selling point. I think Lifter LMS, I haven't looked at their pricing recently, but they have sort of a bundle of a whole bunch of individual plugins that could run upwards of close to $1,000, I think, to really get all of their features. Whereas LearnDash, you can pay about $250 and get everything. And there was a lot of official third-party add-ons that LearnDash gives you with that $250 yearly fee, as well as just a huge community of third-party add-ons as well. So I felt really confident that I would be able to find help in the community and other resources and tutorials and things like that around LearnDash. So even if I wasn't able to figure something out on my own, there was a lot of other people out there that were saying really great things about LearnDash and had developed solutions and worked with the platform before. So that made me feel really comfortable too from a development standpoint.
All good things, having it's like there's always different value propositions for when you're choosing products. It's like sometimes people think about going for the cheapest option, sometimes they think about going for the most expensive option, but really, like, when it comes down to the end of the day, the best option is the one where there's the most available help in order to help you succeed. So you always want to be looking for, product A may be cheaper than product B, but am I going to get the same amount of support and help from their community as I would if I just paid a little bit more or invested a little bit more into a solution? But in this case, it sounds like you got the best of both worlds.
For sure, yeah. And it's similar. I think LearnDash has done things very similar to how WordPress has done things and how WordPress has grown. I think a big reason why people want to use LearnDash is because, or WordPress, excuse me, is because when they start looking around for what should I build my website with, WordPress keeps coming up in everywhere you look. And there's tons of help. There's tons of free help. There's tons of free plugins. There's just so much availability for getting help when you need things. And there's a lot to say about that. And there's a reason why that many people are using it and it's growing that much. There's that kind of leads itself to, hey, there's probably a good reason why a lot of people are doing it. And LearnDash, I think, is playing off the same kind of thing.
Absolutely. Jonathan?
So I think a lot of plugin developers, small plugin shops like yourself, that specialize in a specific product and adding functionality to it, especially around visuality, as I call it. I'm not sure if there's a word, visuality.
Design?
Well, there should be design. There should be a word.
I like visuality better.
Yeah, visuality is not bad, is it?
Jonathan's got his own personal dictionary. So.
I do actually. But I think things are getting a bit complicated because you got Gutenberg, and then you got these page builders, and you got Beaver Builder, Elementor, and the Divi community, and in some ways, it's almost like you got to decide. Was you tempted to kind of hitch yourself to Elementor or Divi? And really focus on that community so you could offer more integration, more slick, smoother integration with those design platforms. Hopefully that question makes sense, Dave.
Well, yeah. So one of it's kind of, there's a benefit to the plugin that I have that plays with the style and the design, but there's also some challenges to it as well. So the one thing I have going for me in working with LearnDash is LearnDash outputs all of its own HTML and CSS for all of the blocks in Gutenberg, as well as all of their shortcodes and everything in focus mode. It's all completely done by LearnDash. And so that kind of hurts users a little bit because they want to use Elementor or Divi or whatever it might be to completely design things in focus mode, but they really can't because it's all controlled by LearnDash. So that does make my job a little bit easier because my plugin works specifically just with LearnDash. I just need to make sure that I stay on top of the CSS changes and things that LearnDash is doing. And as long as I'm doing that, then my plugin will continue to be really compatible. But I've heard some frustrations from people as well that want to use these page builders because they're incredibly powerful. And I'm a huge fan of Elementor myself and think that they're doing really, really great work. And I use it for certain parts of my websites as
I'm
well.
I'm looking at the sales page right now, and I know that wave, the separated under
Exactly.
the main header div. Yeah, I know
sure.
that because I've used that.
Yeah, and Elementor makes it easy to do things like that. And people would love to put that, within their lesson in LearnDash, and they can't. And so there are some frustrating things with users. But in terms of my plugin, I need to make sure that I stay on top of what LearnDash is doing. But I honestly, right now, don't have to worry too much about the page builders. That is, it's also to say too, there's kind of an opportunity for me if I wanted to go in and figure out a way to make Elementor and LearnDash more compatible so that the two could kind of tie in with each other even better. That would open up a whole new set of tools for LearnDash users to be able to customize things in a much more elegant way. And I know that there's actually tangible plugins. Gabriel Gallagher, I think, is the owner over there, and those guys do something similar with Beaver Builder, where they really tie LearnDash and Beaver Builder in pretty tightly. And I haven't used any of his products specifically, but I know he's very active in the LearnDash community, and he's helped people out a lot. And it seems like a really cool plugin. It'd be awesome to see that with Elementor as well. I'm not the guy right now to be able to create that, but maybe somebody else in the community could and really tie those things together. It'd be pretty awesome.
Well, we're going to go for our break. We come back. We'll be talking more with Dave about learning management systems, building your first plugin, commercial plugin, things he's learned. Is going to be a fascinating conversation. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. We're coming back. We've had a feast about LearnDash. I've created a new word. What more can you ask for?
Visuality.
Yes.
All right.
Get it
I think we
trending
should
on
start
Twitter.
a campaign. Visuality Webster's 2020.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all right for you, young agent. Clever, young. When you get to my age, you just got small victories. I played him up. So let's. I've lost my track. Well, let's get back on track.
Dave, we were going to talk about a little bit about running a plugin shop, right? The ecosystem for WordPress changes drastically, and I myself am a plugin developer. You have chosen a different road for developing plugins. So what you've done is you've kind of really hitched your products and your bandwagon to LearnDash, which is a smaller subsection of the WordPress community.
Sure.
Is there any particular reason that you decided to kind of, instead of going down your own road and building, for example, like a core plugin, as it were, like that stands on its own, and why didn't you decide to do that? And why did you specifically decide to go to LearnDash rather? And a follow-up, are you going to be introducing anything that will stand on its own in the future?
Yeah, it's a great question. A big part of actually the first plugin when I created it was kind of just an experiment to see if it could work, to kind of expand upon my skill set a little bit, and to give back to the WordPress community, because I've been building custom sites for clients for 7, 8, almost 9 years in WordPress, and haven't really given a ton back to the community yet. So I've always had that sort of looming over me and thinking that I would like to do that and wasn't sure how. And so offering both the free plugin as well as a premium one, the free one definitely gives back to the community that way. So a lot of it was just an experiment, but another big reason why I decided to do it was, and do it just for LearnDash, was because I wanted to stay in my own lane. I've always been much more of a front end developer than a back end developer. I know enough about PHP with WordPress to be able to create custom themes and use hooks and that kind of stuff, but I've never really built any custom PHP from scratch, and wouldn't consider myself an advanced PHP developer by any stretch. And so to build something on my own from scratch would require, I think, a little bit beyond what my skill set currently was. And for the very first plugin that I create, I really wanted to stick with something that I knew very well. And so CSS and customizing HTML markup and using CSS in a lot of creative ways, and really creating a nicer looking user interface was something that I knew that I was very good at, and that was really in my lane, and I wanted to stay there. So The other benefit is just that the initial plan was for me to be using LearnDash to build my own courses. And so I would be in the LearnDash community and I would know the product very well. And so that was another sort of reason why it was kind of nice to stay in the LearnDash lane, because I would be using it myself and I would know it very well. So I'd be able to provide great support and those kinds of things. So a lot of it sort of was really staying in my lane. And one of the great things that happened, that I did a little bit of research before I launched it, but one of the great things that ended up happening is right now I've kind of ridden on the coattails of LearnDash's success, which has been awesome. There's always the opposite side of that. If something should happen to LearnDash, or they should make some crazy decision and go a different direction and things should fall off and a bunch of people leave LearnDash, it could hurt me a lot. And that's sort of out of my control. I don't foresee that happening anytime in the near future, but it's something certainly to keep in mind. But definitely the popularity of LearnDash and the great job that they have done has allowed me to benefit off of that.
How big is their community?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I mean, I'm willing to share a little bit about how many plugins I've sold. I mean, my free plugin, which you have to be using LearnDash in order to use it, just hit 5,000 active installs. There's another plugin that's also LearnDash specific, the Uncanny LearnDash Toolkit. Jonathan, I'm sure you've heard of it, working with a lot of LMS clients yourself. They just hit 20,000 active installs on their free plugin. So those are 2 free plugins. And then once you factor in all of the other premium plugins that are on top of it, I think LearnDash has been around for about 7 or maybe close to 8 years, 7 years, something around there. It's a large amount of people. And I was surprised at the success and how many people were installing the free plugin and then purchasing the premium plugin. So I don't have any numbers. I wish we kind of knew. I don't think Justin would kind of throw that out there for us, but it's pretty substantial. And I've been able to make quite a bit of a good living off of really just selling the LearnDash plugins themselves. So it's been great.
Awesome. Jonathan?
So, I've used your Design Upgrade Pro. I haven't used so far your quiz customizer. Can you give us an outline of what both those plugins, the Premier versions of those plugins, what they do?
Sure. Well, I would like to just mention about the free plugin that the free plugin really just throws a CSS file behind the scenes, and it doesn't have any customization options, but what it does is it just adjusts a lot of LearnDash's styles. And so it kind of just cleans up things. I didn't think that I liked some of the things that 3.0 did from a design standpoint, but I thought some other things could be improved. And so really the free version just rewrites the CSS a little bit and it makes some improvements there. With the Pro versions, both the Quiz Customizer and Design Upgrade Pro work in a very, very similar way. The Quiz Customizer just specifically focuses on LearnDash quizzes. So I wanted to decouple the two because a lot of people don't use quizzes with LearnDash, and I didn't want to put a lot of options and overload people with too much if they weren't even using quizzes. And so that's why the two exist, but they both really work in the same way. And so all they really do is they give you a separate panel in the WordPress customizer, and they provide a bunch of different options for colors, for spacing. You can show and hide a bunch of different elements. You can add background colors. You can change all of the buttons, a lot of different things like that. So they allow you to completely rebrand and recustomize your entire LearnDash site, but they specifically focus on just the LearnDash elements. So you'll inherit a lot of your theme styles in terms of what fonts you're using and things for your headers and footers, and all of that will still come from your theme. But then if you're using LearnDash, you can further customize all of your courses, lessons, LearnDash buttons, and then the Quiz Customizer lets you customize a lot of the specifics to just the quiz interface. So it's all in an effort to make it super easy for somebody who doesn't know CSS and doesn't want to have to write custom CSS, that they can just open up the customizer, click and choose, a handful of different options. We actually have a little bit over 100 different options now for the Design Upgrade Pro. So there is a lot, so it can get a little bit overwhelming at first, but we try to reuse certain pieces where it makes sense. So for example, one thing we do is we have a global border radius, and this is, I think, one of the things that I'm most proud of with the plugin is that it doesn't add additional options and clutter things up. And so in one place, you can set a global border radius. And let's say you want all of your elements to be completely squared off edges, or if you wanted them to be super rounded and have like a really, really flowy kind of Google material design, rounded corners everywhere. You set that option in one spot in the customizer, and then our plugin intelligently applies it to every single LearnDash element that it makes sense to have a border radius. So we try to reuse some elements in that way.
Yeah, I thought that's one of the reasons why I asked you to come on the show, because I thought you did a really great job with the options, with the balance between usability, functionality, and it becoming very complicated. The interface, I thought you've using Customizer and the options that you've zeroed in, and you found a really great blend, really, Dave. So
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. A lot of thought goes into it, and I really try to also keep in mind WordPress has a philosophy of decisions, not options. And so I really tried to keep that in mind with this as well, and tried to use my knowledge and background in web design to make some decisions for the users so that they wouldn't, end up kind of making too many crazy decisions that might have made things look a little off. So, but still giving people a lot of options so that the plugin was enticing for them to use.
Was it a major decision to actually use the customizer and not have your own option panel,
I did give it a little bit of thought, but it didn't take me very long to come to the conclusion to use the customizer. I remember a handful of years ago, I don't remember how many years ago, but when WordPress was making a big push to get all of their developers to start using the customizer, because there was a lot of theme developers that were using custom control panels. And at first there was a little bit of friction to doing that because it limited flexibility somewhat. People couldn't completely do their own thing. They had to conform to certain customizer rules and the way things were laid out. So I remember there was a little bit of friction, but at this point in time, so many things have moved that way, and users are getting used to it, and that's where they're looking for all of their theme options. And so for me, it made perfect sense to put similar options all in the same place. And so because the Design Upgrade Pro plugin, all of the options are very similar to the theme options that you would have, I wanted to keep that all in one spot instead of creating a separate place for people to go. And also the live refresh and being able to preview it before you publish it was another thing that the customizer does pretty well. And it does it for me without me needing to write my own JavaScript and do that kind of stuff. So I wanted to take advantage of the preview as well.
All right, we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show, folks. We're going to have a continued discussion with Dave, which you'll be able to see on the WP-Tonic website with a full set of show notes. So, Dave, how can people find out more about you and your plugins?
Sure. The best place to go to find out about the plugins and be able to purchase them and learn more is on escapecreative.com. That's where we sell all of our LearnDash plugins. And you can find me on Twitter, just Dave Warfel, first and last name on Twitter. I'm not super active. I actually try to stay off of social media. I find it a little bit of a distraction. And so I'm not super active on there. But if you contact me through escapecreative.com, I'd love to chat with you and answer any questions you might have.
And Adrian, how can people find out more about you and Groundhog?
So if you're looking to add an element of marketing automation and email marketing to your LearnDash course operations, if LearnDash is your LMS of choice, then you can go to groundhog.io to learn more about how you can essentially have the power of something like MailChimp or Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign right within your WordPress dashboard and deeply integrate that with LearnDash.
And if you really want to support the show, go to the WP-Tonic website and sign up for our monthly newsletter. It has all the kind of news stories that we discussed in the Roundtable show, which we do on Fridays, plus some unique articles about learning management systems and the latest WordPress news in general. So it's feature rich, and I do spend a fair bit of time on it, getting it assembled for you listeners and viewers. So go to the WP-Tonic site, sign up for the newsletter, and you also can be part of a monthly competition where I draw a new listener or viewer that signed up for the newsletter, and they will win a prize up to the value of $100. And we're going to announce the first winner of that prize in the last show of March. So go over there and sign up. We'll be back next week with another great guest, or we'll have an internal discussion between me and Adrian. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye. So, Dave, you know, how do you see WordPress in its competition with the SaaS like Kajabi, Learnable? And I think one of the other weak areas, which with Adrian's product and some other people's products is improving, is this whole business about building funnels, sales funnels, integrating it with email automation, which some of these SaaS products really feature, don't they? Do you think WordPress is becoming a stronger competitor, or is it finding it hard going against these SaaS products?
I think that LearnDash is still, there is still that challenge for sure. And I've seen it numerous times in the LearnDash Facebook group. A lot of people asking questions about connecting a lot of third-party systems together and getting all of that to work the way they want it to. But interestingly enough, I mean, I do think that the SaaS platforms offer something on its face a little bit easier, but I still see a lot of people moving from those SaaS platforms and coming over to LearnDash, and they're willing to put in the work and hire a developer or try to figure things out to get it just right. I think the SaaS platforms still require you to do it sort of a certain way. And so people still are limited in exactly setting things up the way they want. So they're still willing to put the work in, but there definitely is work to be put in to LearnDash to figure out how to connect all those things. I do think we're getting better and better. I think there's more products coming into the WordPress space as a whole that are connecting a lot more third-party platforms, and I think we're getting closer. Especially with what's really interesting to me right now is to see a lot of hosting companies buying plugin companies and seeing them starting to work together. I'm just really waiting for. There's been a little bit of this, but I'm really waiting for a hosting company to have acquired a handful of plugins and really create almost a SaaS-based WordPress platform. We've come close. GoDaddy's doing a lot of things. They've bought up a lot of people, but a lot of people are still unhappy with them in the hosting space. They're doing a lot for the community, and I think they've made some great strides there. But there's not a ton of people that are super happy still about the way they're integrating things. But you've got WP Engine and Flywheel, and they've kind of done some mergers and partners and Liquid Web with iThemes, and so there's a lot going on where hosting, plugins, and themes are starting to all come together. So it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years with WordPress.com also doing the same thing. And so it'll be really interesting. I think WordPress is getting more competitive with some of these SaaS platforms, but for certain things, it is still easier if you're just looking to get started and just publish your content. Some of the SaaS platforms still look a little bit more appealing, I think, because it's so much easier and faster to just get up and running and publish your content than it is on LearnDash.
Yeah, especially on the marketing side, because I have on the WP-Tonic site, I offer a hosting package that's specifically aimed at people using either Lifter LMS or LearnDash, and we include a lot of software. But we also integrate Adrian's product with another friend of mine, Spencer Foreman's product.
Which I was snicking. I was just giggling to myself because you're talking about the consolidation of hosting companies and plugins. And if you ever come on the Friday show, that's Spencer's favorite conversation.
It is, but we offer that on the WP-Tonic specifically for people because WordPress has enormous strength, doesn't it, Dave? But that is one of its weak areas that puts a lot of people off. So I'm trying to develop something aimed in the learning management area that's specifically going to be designed, and I'm going to be building extra features this year into that product, Dave. But how do you see the learning, e-learning sector anyway? Do you think it's still in its early days, and do you think there's still a lot of growth in the e-learning sector in general?
I do think there's a lot of growth. I will preface this by saying I haven't done a ton of research on the LMS and the e-learning industry as a whole. So I'm not really familiar with some of those numbers, aside from the fact that I know it has been growing and it's projected to continue to grow.
And it provides.
Yeah. And it's working for me right now. So I have proof in what I'm doing that that more and more people are continuing to do it. And in working in the with the support for my plugin, I've gotten to see a lot of what people are using it for. And people are using it for all sorts of kind of things that you wouldn't even be able to think of, things from color theory to teaching a bunch of different types of languages to music to, I mean, anything imaginable. People are selling their knowledge, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. I do think that it's going to be more and more important over the next handful of years for people to do it well and to do the sales and the marketing and to get all of that really dialed in, because there's going to be a lot more competition. And so it's going to be really important for people to do a really great job of teaching whatever it is that they have and bringing new clients in and keeping the existing ones they have. So really the automation that we've kind of touched on a few times here, Jonathan, with what you're doing, and Adrian with your product, they're going to become really, really important, I think, because people are really going to need a streamlined, powerful way to bring new clients in and keep them there, because they're going to have a lot more competition of other people doing the same things they're doing. So if they're not doing it really, really well, then they'll be in the LMS space or in the e-learning space, but they're going to be struggling and not doing great because other people are going to be beating them out to it. So I hope that will drive innovation, amongst LearnDash and Lifter and even some of the SaaS platforms to really up their game to try to offer features that other people aren't offering. So I'm hoping that helps drive the innovation.
Competition is always good for innovation.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah.
Another factor, and I just want to see if you agree with this. When I'm talking to people that are looking to build their first course, one of the main, that there are some other problems as well, but one of the main things that come up is, I call it the war and peace problem, that they think by offering very elaborate courses, like 20, 40 lessons with a lot of written content with like 5-10 minute videos, that they're offering value there, so that will lead to success. Where I think the evidence is breaking down into short videos, let's say 3 minutes, and having them focus on getting an initial specific problem solved, so the student gets a success story quite quickly, helps in the learning process. What do you think? Do you think I'm on the right track there?
I do. I 100% agree with you. And right now I'm developing courses to teach people how to connect all these things for LearnDash. And in doing so, I've been thinking about how to structure the courses. How many lessons do I put in each one? And how many different topics do I have? And how do I break that up? And I'm 100% leaning to what you're talking about in terms of breaking things down into smaller chunks. I completely agree that it gives people a sense of accomplishment. And certain people are still looking for very specific things, and they like to be able to go in somewhere, get their answer to a pretty specific topic, be able to implement it, and then move on and do something else that they're looking to do. So breaking things up lends itself very well to that kind of a model. And from a business standpoint, I'll have to see once I get things going and do a little bit more research. But I think from a business standpoint, it gives us as the course creator more flexibility in how to charge for our courses as well. If we have a whole bunch of smaller courses, we can charge one-off for each of those things, which kind of really, you can market just those very specific types of courses, but you can also bundle them together in a number of different ways or offer an all-access pass. So it really gives us as course creators too, I think, a lot of flexibility from how to charge and from a business standpoint. So I think it works best for everyone involved, for both the learner as well as the course creator. So I'm 100% with you that the smaller chunks are much, much better.
I think we're going to wrap it up now. I really enjoyed the conversation, actually, Dave. You have to come back later on in the year and we have a further discussion. I think we've covered a lot of territory. What do you think, Adrian?
I think we're good. I think some insights here. So LearnDash, obviously an excellent option. I don't think it get we get a lot of LMS people on the show. I mean, we're LMS focused podcast for a large majority of the time.
Well, I do kind of, it's learning management, it's e-learning with WordPress, with online marketing, which fits into your product really well as well. And I honestly feel the land of automation with e-learning in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be some of them where you're going to see some of the biggest innovation, really, Adrian.
I think the next range of products that need to make themselves apparent are things that make the customer onboarding experience as simplified as humanly possible. Some of the and I think that's where I mean, my product hopefully helps some people do that. And LearnDash and their 3.0 update certainly eases the user experience in terms of consuming content. And I think that the vast majority of the new products that we're going to see in the next little while in terms of marketing and automation and learning management is going to be how many steps can we remove from the account creation and consumption experience for the customer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also with automation, I see it's very, very early days and there's a lot of talk about it, but it's not very simple. And I'm not going to throw in artificial intelligence. I was tempted to say, also artificial intelligence, but is
the buzzword really, for a big database.
Exactly. Is the ability to customize the students' experience based on the decisions and their questions and how they answer questions in quizzes, and that it's very rudimentary at the present moment, Adrian and Dave. But I can see in the next few years how people consume the video, being able to see how long they take to consume something, how they answer the quizzes, would then be the next stage would be customized on those through automation, actually, Adrian. But
with that, if I could just real quick, my thought on that is just the privacy concerns to go along with that. I'm curious to see how what I think is kind of a push against some of these huge firms that are collecting so much data on us with GDPR and California's privacy, and there's a lot of states doing it individually now too. It'll be interesting to see, because as a course creator, sure, we would love to gather a lot of this personalized information on people and be able to deliver them a custom experience, but we also need to be aware of what they're willing to give us and how much, because there's been a huge pushback, they may not be willing to give us a ton in order to do that. So it'll be interesting to see how we communicate what we're trying to do and see if users are okay with that. I think that'll be interesting to look at.
Yeah, I think that's also a great point, Dave. Thanks for that. So we're going to end the great discussion. We'll be back next week, folks. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thanks a lot, guys.